On this week's show, we're discussing Astro Bot soaring into the Game of the Year contention, the plight of the Concord as its servers are shut down after just 2 weeks, and Space Marine 2 tearing it up for the Emperor. All that and much, much more on this week's GamerGuild Podcast. Good game, everyone, and welcome back to the GamerGuild Podcast, your weekly show where we round up all of the week's video game news for your listening or viewing pleasure right here on youtube.com/GamerGuildTV and all available up there in the digital clouds on your podcast platform of choice. Your podcast players for the week are myself, Chris at Arcane Rogue, and the man of many pixels, Mr. Richie at RichieC89. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. I know we do that every week as like a formality, but it's been 420 episodes.
That was started off like as a miss thing. It's like, you know what, it's a funny recurring joke.
I feel like
I
it's
hope people
also
appreciate it.
It's also like a polite British way of just introducing people to the show. Thank you, welcome everyone. Any new listeners who've started following the channel of late, welcome to our weekly podcast where we're going to get into it, and we do have a great show lined up for you all. So thank you very much for tuning in. Plenty of news and discussion, as I said. Astro Bot soaring high, Concord crashing low, in Space Marine just tearing it up out there in the world. So before we get into all that, don't forget to like, subscribe, ring a ding ding that bell so you're kept in the loop with all the great content we do here on the channel, like this very podcast, like our weekly live streams, and quite often a retro look back as well, with you, the wonderful audience out there, the fantastic folks who support us, help us bring you better quality content. Don't forget to follow us at GamerGuildTV across all social channels. Threads, Richie, I've noticed Threads is starting to pick up a little bit more. There seems to be quite a lot of engagement over there. There's not a lot of that Twitter faff that's going on. And
I think it's one of them Threads kind of like launched.
Who's Fred?
Like as Threads. That launched kind of like alongside of a couple of others when Twitter was like dying after Elon Musk took over.
Absolutely.
I just never bothered switching over. And I don't really use Twitter that much anymore anyway, so
yeah, it's social media overload. Threads seems to be a more polite, nice place to hang out yet. The cynicism and poison of the internet hasn't quite got hold of it yet. I don't know if that's better or for worse.
It's also owned by Meta, who own Facebook and Instagram, which is one of the things I was like, I'm not sure I want to give them even more of a monopoly over social media.
I think we just need to accept at this moment in time we are heading towards a future, like a Total Recall Skynet future where everything is owned by one of 5 global corporations. And we're here today to talk about some other global corporations in Microsoft, Sony.
Become the 6th.
I mean, they can buy us if they want. Well, I'll take a payout. But of course, thank you for everyone who supports us. Thank you, amazing support of our guild heroes, the members of the channel who support that extra bit further. And we're bringing you a special 5th year anniversary at the end of this month, 28th of September, Saturday. Put it in your calendar, folks. We're going to get together and do a full day worth of live streams. We will be doing this show live, so we'd love to see you all in the comments. Any questions, get them in there. If you do have any questions, actually, we are planning on doing a Q&A session that's not news related, so if you want to get questions in for the show, for me, Richie, Tom, Rob, anyone like that, drop them into our Discord server. There's a specific thread for questions. We'd love to hear you and just talk about things maybe outside of gaming a little bit more that isn't stuck within the realms of a 1 hour podcast. We're also going to be playing some games, of course. It would be a bit foolish of us to celebrate 5 years of gaming content by not playing any games. Gears of War 2, I think we're going to kickstart, Richie, with like kind of a nice meaty lengthy stream. I'm well aware in the doc I've wrote Gear If War. I was very tired this morning.
He has.
Gear If War? ? And as a special extra, we're also going to be doing some console ranking. I've seen this happen on a couple of internet podcasts out there at the moment. We're going to get together with you, the audience, maybe some special guests, and rank all of the video game consoles throughout time. Where do they sit? S tier, A tier, B tier, C tier, throughout time, yes.
I'm not sure we could go that far because there's stuff that came out in like the 80s and stuff we just haven't touched.
If you look at the tier list maker on the internet, it has like everything. So some of them will have to go off purely aesthetics. If the box looks cool and funky, it might get a high rating. If it looks like a trash mess, we rank it lower. But that's
I
one of
suppose
our
as long
things.
as our justifications are there. Like, we've not played it. This looks like badass.
Yeah, absolutely. Futuristic as all hell. So we're going to be looking at that. I'm also putting in preliminary, maybe look at our trophy reviews, Richie. We're both big PlayStation gamers. We have quite a couple of platinums under our belt. I think a bit of self-reflection on this year and the years gone by of what are just some of the best trophy runs that we've had. And then probably, of course, we'll end out the night with some drinks, probably some pizza at some point. That's usually the trend. And some games with you, the multiplayer audience out there who've supported the channel through and through for half a decade. So we can't wait.
We will not be playing Concord.
We will not be playing Concord. It's not impossible to play Concord. We might light a candle in its respect. But of course, we'll get into all that later on. Like I said, just a few short weeks and we'll be here Saturday the 28th. Do join us for our GamerGuildTV celebration of 5 years. This past week, we did have a live stream go up on the channel of the one and only Astro Bot. He's here. I do have a story I'll get to in what we've been playing about Astro Bot and why I absolutely hate Amazon. Not the rainforest, the suppliers.
You heard it here, Chris wants to get rid of the rainforest.
I want to get rid of all rainforests and replace them with lake forests.
Let's make the Amazon a lake.
flood the jungles. But realistically, I played Astro Bot, did a first look at it. There's about an hour of the initial gameplay, the first few opening levels. And have I played a lot more since? Damn right I have, but we'll get into that when we get to the news. So, Richie, before we do get into all that, let me know what you've been playing in these past 7 days.
I have finally platinumed Shadow of the Tomb Raider.
He's done it, ladies and gentlemen.
I did it. I think last week I'd already rolled credits, but I've got the platinum. The trophy list isn't actually too bad, apart from the Deadly Obsession trophy, which is you have to complete the entire game with Deadly Obsession, and Deadly Obsession is the hardest difficulty mode in the game, but instead of in a lot of hard difficulties, you just your enemies have more health, there's more enemies, you have lower health, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
There's a bit of that. Combat, not really a problem. It's some of the traversal sections. Lara can be a little bit sketchy. Like, she'll just randomly jump off a cliff, or she'll throw a grappling hook, and it'll just miss.
She got that
and
Assassin's Creed syndrome.
Which isn't too bad on easier difficulties, because you'll usually spawn at the last checkpoint, which is probably just before that section of the game anyway. So you're only a couple of minutes back. On Deadly Obsession, it only saves, barring 2 points I am aware of in the game, at camps. And there's less camps in the game. So sometimes you might be playing for half an hour between camps. And sometimes if you get to a section, like I had a bug when there was at one point in the game, it's like almost like a running section where you're running away from a load of enemies. The camera bugged, so it was facing me rather than facing behind me from behind. And that just meant that section was just not viable. So after about 5 attempts, so we're talking about good 2-3 hours to get to that section and then die, and then get to the next section and then die.
Yeah.
Then realizing there was a bug, trying to work through the bug by trying to spin the camera quickly and then die. Then giving it a few days and uninstalling and reinstalling the game to get through it.
Do you see you persevered?
I persevered.
Lara would be proud.
I mean, it's definitely doable, but it's just one of them things where, for a game that just has a lot of traversal sections, it's just not as precise as you want it to be. There's still some bugginess. I had this with Uncharted as well, actually. It's not as clean and crisp in the traversal as you remember it to be.
Can it ever be that crisp with just the format of how games are done, and a lot of it's on the player's directional stuff, and you know what I mean? It has its directional stuff has its limitations, because you can only have so many hit points and grapple points, and you know what I mean?
Limitations, but there's ways you can interpret. There'll be sometimes like you're on a cliff, Lara's reaching out to jump to the next thing, and then she'll just not grab onto it.
Yeah.
So she's doing the animation to show I'm safe.
Yeah, but then not.
So there's stuff like that. It's like, yes, I think there could be another layer of polish. It didn't bother me at all until I played on Deadly Obsession. And it's because of the saves with the camps, and it just is a pain.
How far we've came from the Lara that was able to jump forward and sideways only.
Yeah,
remember that?
Oh well, you have to edge up to the end.
You have to literally move her to the right degree you want, and then do a front roll or a front flip. And even then,
You know what? Overall, loved the game. It was just a shame that the last trophy I was working on did sour it a little bit at the end, but
yeah. That's why they're the last ones. That's why they're the last ones. So what are you moving on to after this then? Now Tomb Raider's put to bed.
I picked up Star Wars Jedi Survivor in the sale on PlayStation. Because I've said loads of times in this podcast, I'm not going to talk it to death. The only reason I stopped playing is because of personal situation. I'm basically not around my Xbox that much. So because it was on the sale on PlayStation, I'm trying it on the Portal. I'm only a few hours in. I've only done like the first area on Coruscant.
We all
I've kind of just got off Coruscant. Yeah.
Come on, Richie. We're all friends here. Just admit you wanted the trophies. That's the real
It's not.
reason.
It really isn't even that. I was like, because I was around my girlfriend's a lot. I was having to try and play on my phone, and I know you can get things like key sheets and backbones. I don't think my phone is a big enough screen to have a good gaming experience for that style of game. So I just couldn't get away with it with my key sheet. The Portal is just that little bit bigger. It's a comfortable experience. It's like playing on the Switch.
Yeah.
So I'm quite happy to do that.
That's fair. That's fair. It's a great game so far. I'm glad you've gone back to it because I think you'll really, especially after playing Tomb Raider, it's so similar in a lot of its game design and just traversal and mini segment open worlds and stuff, just with lightsabers and more. It's
ironic. Star Wars Outlaws comes out and go, oh, I fancy a bit of Star Wars game.
Yeah.
Oh, let's go play a Jedi Survivor
Absolutely.
instead.
Well, speaking of Star Wars Outlaws, I've had obviously another week on. I've probably put another 10 or so 15 hours into it, and I'm happy to say, and I've seen a lot of discourse online, it gets a lot better. So I was quite happy with it last week, and I was enjoying my time in it, but actually the further you get in the story and the more the game does open up and allow you to explore the world, the open worlds, plural, that are in that galaxy. I'm at Tatooine now. I've done the whole Mos Eisley area, and just they're so beautifully realized, but the dynamics of the world, I think now I'm free to explore 4 planets and space and all the kind of intricacies in between. I'm really enjoying the way the syndicates play off each other, the exploration, that typical Ubisoft, like looking for secrets, finding things, reading intel logs that are to do with the wider Star Wars lore. And again, it's just really refreshing to do all this without the hindrance of Jedi and Sith being like the focal point of the whole story, and actually just having it be, I'm into some shady shit. There's a heist on the horizon. I need to gather a team, and to get that team together, I need to go do little missions, little fetch quests, little like just typical Ubisoft stuff. And yeah, the sound design, the visuals, like don't get me wrong, it's still got all its typical Ubisoft quirky bugs that we went through last week. But the game is really, really growing on me, and seemingly it's growing on the audience out there as well. So yeah, really happy to report. If you thought about Outlaws or if you've picked it up, just keep playing it, and it gets better with time, which is what you want in a game. You want it to get better rather than worse.
I've seen about 5 to 10 hours of gameplay of it now because my girlfriend's playing through it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand some of the harsh criticisms from some of the critics. I'm forgetting the fan stuff. Fan outrage is just, I'm not interested at this point. Some of the actual usually respected critics giving it maybe 3s and 4s. I don't understand that.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a 9 out of 10. It's nowhere near. For me, it's somewhere between a high 7 and a low 8. It looks like it's just a largely very competent game. Mm-hmm. That is a Star Wars experience. It's a Ubisoft game. That's where Ubisoft usually falls. So if you have this expectation of it's going to be a Game of the Year contender, you're going to have a bad time because it's a Ubisoft game. They very rarely are. Mm-hmm. You need to kind of, if you set your expectations right, I think you're going to have a good time because it looks fun.
Yeah.
From what I've watched, and I'm usually quite critical of Ubisoft, and all the criticisms I have of Ubisoft are still there. But I knew about that, which is why I didn't want to put, is why I was not willing to pay full price for it.
Yeah.
It's why I'm waiting to eventually maybe pick up on a sale, or more likely steal my girlfriend's copy.
I was waiting for that, yeah. That
like,
was inevitably going
it's like, I wouldn't, but I personally wouldn't. It's why I didn't pre-order it, because I wanted to see what the reviews were doing. I wanted to wait till fans got their hands on it to see what the actual game was like before I committed.
Mm-hmm.
But I can see myself playing it at some point.
From an aesthetic standpoint, then, if you're observing it from a safe distance on the couch, right. Do you agree it doesn't look traditionally Ubisoft, like visually, because of the Star Wars skin over the whole thing?
It looks like good. I like the Star Wars aesthetic over it. My girlfriend's had some complaints if you know the cyan blue. She said she found it in some places difficult to read. Yeah,
is that not an
some of the UI elements
you can change potentially?
Maybe, but she doesn't usually mess around with stuff like that. But that's the standard, and she's struggling a little bit. I didn't have an issue. I do think some of the UI elements aren't very good. Sometimes they're too small and not clear.
That's one of the things that gets me when you're on the speeder.
I was talking on the stuff on the bottom.
Yeah.
You know, when sometimes it's like it'll say R3. It's like, is that R or L? Because it's a bit blurry, and she's got a 65-inch 4K TV.
Yeah.
There's no excuse for that. That should be better.
Yeah, I think a lot of stuff can be tweaked. I think they went with the Star Wars aesthetic, and they've almost like pigeonholed themselves into it has to ultimately look like that, rather than give themselves a bit more flex with what do we need to do for the gamer from an accessibility standpoint. But
it's the stuff on the bottom. It's all quite slightly greyed out white. It's really a bit too small and not very clean and crisp. Yeah. When you're watching it, looking at it in 4K on a 65-inch TV, might be even a 70-inch TV. It's massive.
It's getting bigger, folks.
So if on that size of TV, if you're in resolution, you're struggling to look at the UI elements. God knows what you're doing on a crappy 10, a crappy maybe
on your
40-inch,
CRT TV in the basement.
Well, I wasn't going to go. I was going to say like a 40-inch 1080p TV, which I've got downstairs.
Yeah. Can you?
So I think that's something that's patched. But I'm nitpicking here on a UI element.
Can you remember when we used to play GoldenEye on a 4-player split screen on like a 10-inch, 15-inch screen? That's madness. But yeah, I agree with some of the little bugbears. My biggest gripe, what I've found so far, is the mini-map in the open world. So when you're on the speeder trying to go from area to area, and you have to follow set paths, and there's like cliffs blocking your view, and you don't know how to get to the location, you have to pause it to go into the map to see where the road is, and then leave it. And then when you're driving at such a speed, and like any driving game like GTA or The Crew or something, and you're like, is it this right? Is it the next right? Or is it there a bigger right coming up? I'm having to pause it mid like 100-mile-an-hour sprint to check, to then go, oh, I've missed the turn off that I was supposed to do. Just give me a mini-map, Ubisoft. Just a little tiny blue arrow in the corner with a tiny, small, vague overview of the area that I'm in, so I can see when the right turn is coming up. TomTom and Google Maps have had it in real life for decades now.
They've went for the compass style rather than the mini-map style. I know there's a few other little things, like you mentioned, well, sometimes if you approach a settlement, there might only be one road up. My girlfriend approached a settlement from the wrong direction. So the settlement was based on the top of some cliffs. Because she got too far, it dismounted from her speed and said, "You're not allowed to use your speeder here."
Oh, it just chucks you
as
off.
if because it detected her as in the town, even though she wasn't. That's one of them. Like, you need to kind of tidy up your boundaries, guys.
Polish, yeah. I've had it when I've rocked up to bases and be like, "Oh, this is the location I need to get to start the mission," and I rock up and they go, "Hey, you're not allowed here, under arrest," and then it goes wanted, and then it restarts me back from somewhere else, and I'm like, I didn't even know what I was doing or that I'd arrived yet, and it just polish, but Ubisoft polish. It's Ubisoft.
We're just nitpicking.
But we are nitpicking. But overall, I'm thoroughly enjoying it, and I will be returning to it after I've probably got the platinum in another game, which we're going to get into as we move on to the news, because of course it's Astro Bot, folks. But we can't talk about that until Richie introduces us to the
graciously gathered GamerGuild Gazette, aka the
news. And as always, the news is brought to you by our wonderful guild heroes, the fantastic folks who support us that extra little bit further, just like you can. From as little as 99p, you get this show early, other content extra early, stickers and badges next to your name in the live chat, and of course your undying love given to us to bring you better quality content for another 5 years, potentially. Another 5 years. So if you've listened for a while, if you've watched for a while, you've enjoyed our content, you enjoy our witty banter, then why not click join? Maybe just for a month, trial it out. 99p. What could go wrong? You can't buy anything for 99p nowadays, Richie. Can't even get a Wamba or a Freddo or whatever the equivalent is in other countries around the world.
This is where our audience who are not from the UK, when grew up in the 90s and 2000s, go, what the fuck's a Wamba?
Yeah, you'll have an equivalent. It's basically, there was a band in the 90s called Wham, and they took them, minced them down, made them into a small candy treat. And that's where Wambas come from. Yeah, pop and candy to hide the blood and the bones that are crushed in there, the sinew, and that's where the unique flavour of a Wamba comes from.
Cannibalism, but delicious.
Yeah, I mean, no one's seen George Michael for many years now.
True.
Just saying. But of course, thank you for your support. We do appreciate it, and it's that type of sick humour that you'll find here on the channel. We do have a wonderful Discord as well. Link is in the description below. If you want to hang out with us throughout the week when we're not live on a show, do so by chatting along with us in the Discord. Right, Richie, it's here. The time is here. Our little friend Astro has arrived. Astro Bot, no subtitle, just Astro Bot. His first fully fledged game is here, and my word, the reviews are outstanding. 94 on Metacritic, which is universal acclaim. User score on Metacritic 9.6. Chris's score from my personal playthrough so far 10 out of 10. This, Richie, as we drill down and get into it, is my game of the year already. I can't see anything beating it. It's just doing it.
I've just done a quick Google search for like PS5 games Metacritic.
Mm-hmm.
It's, if you exclude multi-platform stuff like Elden Ring and Baldur's Gate 2 and The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, it's top. In fact, Elden Ring is one with a Metacritic of 96, so is Baldur's Gate 3 96, so showing for one. Then it's joint top for the highest Metascore for a PS5 game with The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, God of War Ragnarok.
Mm-hmm.
Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, that's multi-platform, so if you can dismiss the first top 3 games, it's joint top as a PS5 exclusive with God of War Ragnarok.
This is a game
just to put it in perspective.
Absolutely. And it's one of those where I feel like it's almost like after the news we get into with Concord and the layoffs in the industry and stuff, it's almost like this is the game the industry needs. A video game that is ultimately, at its heart, a video game.
It's a goddamn video game, Chris.
It's a 3D platformer with a cute character, fun, whimsy, bright, colourful worlds to explore. No death and violence. I mean, there is a little bit of violence. You do whack a lot of things. But you know what I mean? It's like fun soundtrack, colourful, imaginative, creative. Like every superlative word I could use. I'm going to defer to a couple of reviews just to give our audience, rather than just my opinion. Push Square, the PlayStation platform website, give it a 10 out of 10, 100% score. Astro Bot is a stunning 3D platformer and easily among the best games in the PlayStation 5's library. It fully delivers on the promise of Astro's Playroom, building on the rock-solid core of tight controls and inventive gameplay and turning up everything to 11, with tons of stuff to see and do, almost endless fresh ideas, innovative use of the DualSense feature, and truly charming presentation. I lost the article there, sorry. It's a confident and cohesive experience that players of all ages will love. To top it off, it's the perfect game to celebrate PlayStation's upcoming 30th anniversary, reflecting on the myriad of games in the series that made the platform what it is today. So that's just one. Another one from VGC, Video Game Chronicle. They give it a 10 out of 10, 100% as well. Astro Bot isn't simply an enjoyable platformer with some nostalgia tying it together. It's a generationally impressive entry in the genre that understands PlayStation at an atomic level. The sheer level of joy in the game produces makes it impossible to compare it with anything. Sorry, every time I open up an article, I lose a couple of the words. To compare it with anything other than Mario's very best adventure. Astro is no longer a vector through which reference PlayStation icons. He is a PlayStation icon. And it just goes on, Richie. Eurogamer, 100%, 10 out of 10. Pocketlin, IGN, give it a 9, I think. GameRant, 100. The Sixth Axis, 100. VGC Games, 100. Games Radar, 100. You can just keep going, basically. It is pretty much what I hoped it would be, and I'm happy to say after playing it for probably about 10 hours since its launch on Friday, with both myself on my save and also with the wife in the spare time on a separate save as well. Got to keep us separate. Ask me questions, Richie. Let me tell you about it. Let me praise this game for what I can.
I've been reading a few of the user reviews because it's critic reviews, 112 reviews at the time of recording. All of them positive.
Mm-hmm.
There's a few negative user reviews, and to be honest, they're all kind of either talking absolute nonsense or just calling it a Mario clone. It's a mascot platformer. Every mascot platformer is a Mario clone. Get over that shit.
Welcome to the YouTube channel for
merits. This game is reviewing way better than I expected to. I expected it to be good.
Mm-hmm.
This, for me, I think is easily
hello everyone and
odds on to be game of the year based on the reviews so far. What makes it so good? That's what I want to know, because there's a few people give it like users like giving it a 7 out of 10 because it makes good use of the PlayStation 5's hardware, but other than that, it's just a by numbers mascot platformer. What's the special sauce here?
It's a hard one to pin down. It does everything Mario does perfectly. So like the exploration, the variety of worlds, the uniqueness of it all. What I think stands out for me is just the polish. Like I've played Mario 3D platformers, Sunshine Galaxy, N64, all of those ones, and they're all great, but I feel like as we push the boundaries of technology as well, the sheer detail and polish in this game is just second to none, and it is amplified a lot by the DualSense. So we know from the Playroom game, if you've played it on the PlayStation 5, if you haven't, that this is that's the perfect demo to gauge your interest for Astro Bot. It's built into every PlayStation 5. It's totally free. Go check that one out. In terms of just the sheer polish, I was saying to the wife when I was talking about it, like every little tree or character that you interact with, like even just like side characters who don't do anything, if you knock them or you punch them or you run into a tree, everything like ripples or glistens or has like an animation to go with it, and it's just the level of detail makes the whole world feel lived in, vibrant, and it makes me want to explore. Like every little plant and item that's stuck to a wall I'm interacting with just to see if something happens, and it's really piqued my curiosity where, because of the nature of the game is you're saving astrobots, you're looking under every crevice and hole to find your fellow robots to save. It leads to exploration, which means little hidey holes, little secrets that you figure out. But what I think is really good is it doesn't
every
repeat...
aspect of the game like kind of folds back into it. Every other aspect.
It really, really does, and it's creative along the way, and it's just fun. The whimsy, the music is great. The game looks absolutely stunning as well. Great on the Portal because it's just a little platform. Very minimal instructions. It's basically like jump and hover, punch, and then a couple of little like unique gadgets that come along the way. And I will say, to their credit, they never repeat and use the same gadget. It's literally all... I mean, you go back to some of them for like repetition's sake, but like every other area you go to, it's fresh and it's new. They're not using the same tropes that the first couple of games did. It's like all just unique, fun, new, and it uses the DualSense in such good ways. Which I should point out, I've not actually mentioned it yet. But Richie,
oh, you've got it.
There he is.
You've got it, guys.
For audio listeners, it is the Astro Bot controller with its little metallic sheen on the side, which is it's unique for a DualSense. We've not seen this like kind of two-tone separate plastic. There's like I think that
looks better than the standard DualSense by far, to be honest.
There's like little tech etchings along the side, like Astro Bot style. We do have his eyes, which they're not LEDs that I did think initially. It probably would have put the price up.
There's a
standard
DualSense for video listeners.
Clear buttons, but obviously the accents inside have colour differently. And on the back, we've got the Astro Bot head as well.
You know,
and I've been playing with this one specifically.
Instead of the two-tone being where the sticks are, the two-tone being on the kind of handles, like the Astro Bot, that's what you need to do going forward, PlayStation, because I've always hated, and to this day, hate the look of the DualSense and the PS5. It's an ugly console. The Astro Bot controller, see, it can work in metallic blue, but the white and black I don't like.
Yeah.
But that's your default, though.
It is. And that's always their plan, right? To sell you more as time goes on. But yeah, I've seen just people gushing over it. It's sold out. But a little side note rant, which I meant to mention before we got into this. My process for getting Astro Bot, so I pre-ordered it 2 months ago in July to come on launch day through Amazon. And it got to Thursday morning. So bear in mind the game came out on Friday. And I got a notification from Amazon. Never happened before through Amazon. I don't know anyone. All of our listeners probably use Amazon as well. Security check with the payment details. So they just did like a random card check with my bank card. And I was awake at the time. It was like 8:30 in the morning. And it just came through and said, we're doing a security check on the app. So I went into it. We need you to update your payment details. Went in. Well, my card's still got another year left on it. So I'd literally just saved and submitted the exact same thing. What do you think happened in that 60-second window where I just resubmitted my exact same bank details?
Cancelled your pre-order?
Cancelled my pre-order. But then obviously I remedied it within 60 seconds, so I put it back in. What do you think happened to my pre-order? Do you think it came on launch day?
No.
Monday. So the day this... So 3 days later. 4 days later, you know, arguably.
I've had something similar happen to me, actually. I think it might have been... Is either Majora's Mask or Link Between Worlds?
Right.
No, it must have been Majora's Mask because Link Between Worlds I got with my 3DS. Majora's Mask 3D, bought from Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
And although it didn't do a weird payment check thing, I just got a notification for saying it was because I pre-ordered. So a pre-order you expect on the day of launch that to be in your hands. If it's at 9 p.m, it's still the day of launch. It sucks, but fair enough.
There's always a window.
They moved the delivery
courier.
the night before. I checked and it was due to be there tomorrow. Woke up the next day to check and it moved to like 2 days later. And there's like that. Actually, at that point, I contacted them and going, "What the hell's going on?" It's like meant to be, and they just they hide the customer service hotline and stuff. So it took ages to find. And to be honest, I stopped using Amazon for about 2 years because I was that pissed off with the lack of customer service. Because it's not customer service; it's customer appeasement.
Yeah, well,
they're not there to help you out. They're there to shut you up.
Yeah, well, that's it. So I got in touch with them naturally and was like, that's not acceptable. Like, I've literally pre-ordered this, and I put it the equivalent to when I was explaining it to my mother over the weekend, because it was a birthday present from her to me. So not only did it have, like, obviously, it wasn't, I mean, it was a birthday present, but I wanted it day one. I didn't want to wait for it. After waiting 2 months.
Well, that's why you pre-order stuff,
exactly,
to get it day one.
Exactly. So I contacted
Forget all the bonuses. That's why you pre-order.
It's like due to one of your security checks, which I appreciate. They're for fraud reasons and stuff, which I don't mind. But it's essentially, I've just got in the queue for a roller coaster. I've queued for 2 months. It will convert that into hours. So I've queued for 2 hours. One of your staffs came along and went, "Excuse me, sir, can I just check you've got a valid ticket for this theme park?" "Yeah, there's my ticket." "Okay, no problem." And then they put me at the back of the queue. It's like, what the hell did I do? I did nothing wrong, except for my entire like launch day plans and stuff were ruined. But shout out to Argos, of all places, for coming in clutch. They had them in stock day one, and they also had controllers, like just to collect in person, like the Astro Bot controller. So I got both, cancelled my Amazon order, which then is a whole other story, Richie, because they kept trying to send it out. So I contacted them twice in the web chat and said, "I don't need this anymore. Like, you've missed the launch day. It's no longer needed." They went, "Oh, it's at our centre getting dispatched now." And I said, "But it's not coming till Monday. So you've got 3 days to take this out of the cycle and just not bring it to my house."
Look, it's like, look, this is cancelled. I'm not paying you.
Yep.
If you send it out, I'm not returning it. I mean, that's on you.
I would have returned it. But so they took the payment.
I wouldn't have done. If they're messing me around, I would have went, "Look, if you send this out, I'm not returning it." Because that's you I'll view this as you gifting me as it for my troubles.
I mean, I also wanted my money back, so there's something where they'll.
I'll be like, "You give me my money back," but if then you can't like, if you still end up dispatching this, it's not my problem. It's your problem.
Yeah, I mean, the way I had
if
to
you want
do
it back,
it,
you'll find out on eBay
after cancelling it. And the only way they could possibly remedy it was when the delivery driver came out to the house. I had to stop him on my driveway and say, "I don't want it," and he had to get back in his van, cancel it through his app, for it then to be refunded and sent back.
Surely they've got better processes than that.
I mean,
surely someone at the customer service team can pick up a phone and ring the dispatch team.
I mean, it's all automated, isn't it?
This order number, but it might be all automated, but there surely should be some human component where someone in the customer service team can pick up the phone and ring the dispatch and go find order X, Y, Z. That's not going out.
Yeah, and just take it out of the production line and put it back in the
I don't care how big you are. A system like that should always be in place.
Yeah. So
for events like this.
So either way, I've got what I got. I've got what I got. And Argos, thank you very much for fixing my Friday afternoon, evening. And Amazon, sort your shit out. Because it was just like, I had heart palpitations, Richie. I was worried I wasn't going to get my pre-order. Like typical nerdy first world stuff. But back to the game. As I said, I'd say just over a third of the way through. I've got 120 out of 300 odd Astro Bots saved. Again, the worlds are stunning, the boss fights are creative, and the way it leans into the PlayStation history is just, it's beautiful. I find myself just like smiling along with like levels and like every little thing you find, it's like, ooh, look at that, that's cool. One of the things it does really, really great is, it's not really a spoiler, but for those who I guess don't want spoilers for some people that are in it, after you finish a boss fight, it opens up like a level that focuses on a PlayStation IP.
Okay.
So specifically, again, I'm not going to spoil it for anyone out there, but think of the PlayStation characters in their catalog and think of how an Astro Bot level would look if it was inspired by those IP. And you kind of get one of them after every boss fight. So think of the big ones. Think of some of the games you've played of late, Richie.
I'm thinking God of War.
I mean, that's in the trailer, that one, so it's...
Oh, yeah, okay, I think I've got God of War.
But it's not just run around as Astro Bot, it embodies the IP. So it's like, you can imagine the fun that ensues from that. Team Asobi taking those IP and getting to make their own. It's basically like Lego does with when they get a franchise. They reimagine it as their cute little family-friendly version, because God of War isn't family-friendly. And but they go back, they do some older IP, some
God of
newer
War's
IP.
A game about family.
That is true. But in the Easter eggs and stuff, they've done lots of third-party stuff, as we knew from last week's podcast talking about the list. I've found some of my favourite mascots of all time in the game already, which I'm so glad they made happen. There's some omissions so far, which I think there's a couple of publishers who maybe didn't get on board. I heard an interview with the director this week saying every time they went out to an IP owner, they all wanted involved in it for the most part. They were like, oh, hell yeah, get us an Astro Bot. Like, they didn't even question it or ask for money. They were just like, yeah, use it, take it.
Because everyone loved Astro Bot's Playroom.
Well, they did. And, just all things said and done, I'm having an absolute blast playing it on my own. I'm having a great time playing it with my wife because, again, it's one of those just family-friendly games where you don't need to be a hardcore gamer to understand. Jump, hit, and the game does so well at telling you the mechanics. Like, there's a lot of stuff like an item will be a specific colour or it will react with the world a specific way that you just naturally know what to do. Like, you can figure it out immediately. I've seen people playing it with, like, their 4-year-olds, their kids, their family, just everyone.
It's for all ages.
Absolutely. And, again, we spoke last week about people saying Astro isn't really a mascot. And I've seen some people say, like, yeah, he's missing something, he's too generic. And I was like, well, no, Astro is the mascot. He is one of the bots. Astro is his name, and he's the mascot.
I think he is a mascot. I don't think he's too generic. I think he works. He's iconic.
Yeah.
If you see him come up, you know who he is. Maybe he doesn't have the level of mascot fame as someone like Mario or Crash, but they've got that legacy they are from the era of the mascot platformers.
Ask us again in 40, 25 years or whatever the other ones are up to.
Yeah.
And we'll get to it. But
this is his first standalone non-VR game.
Yeah. I will challenge you,
That
Richie.
isn't really... Yeah.
Because I had to do it on the live stream when I was playing the game. I started talking about it whilst I did the introduction. Can you name all of the games Astro Bot's featured in?
No, but I'll give it a go. There's obviously Astro Bot's Playroom.
Which was? Which one?
That was the PlayStation 5 launch one, where it's basically a tech demo.
Correct, yeah.
There was VR Mission.
Close. Rescue Mission.
Rescue Mission, yeah. The VR one.
Yeah. And then...
There's the two I know of. That's why I said no to begin with.
So Astro's first one was on when the PlayStation 4 launched with the camera. It was called Playroom VR. And you had the connect the camera, so it would set up your living room and it would show you where your couch is and where you are in relation to the TV. And when you shook your controller, all the little Astrobots came out of the camera and landed on your living room couch, and you could kind of move your arms and legs and knock them flying all over the place.
So it's kind of like an AR game.
Yeah, it's essentially the iToy from PlayStation 2, where you'd knock one that'd fly at the glass and hit the screen and go and slide down it. So yeah, this is his fourth entry, essentially.
It's first.
But it's his first.
Yeah, it's his first proper standalone game.
Yeah.
You can maybe count Playroom, but to be honest,
it's a tech demo.
Clearly intended. It's a tech demo. That's what it is. Mm-hmm. It doesn't hide behind anything other than that.
Yeah, and they all were. And again, if you get a chance to go back and play VR, like the Rescue Mission game was fantastic. And essentially, I think I maybe praised it at the time, but picture Mario 64, but you are in the world. So your VR character, you're like a little alien guy, and you look down and your character has the headset on, and you can see Astro at your feet or in front of you, or sometimes he climbs up to eye level when he's up a ladder on a bridge, and you control him still, just like you would in a 3D platformer like you do in this game, but he's there and you're in the world with him, like kind of overseeing him like a godlike figure. And it's quite surreal being in a 3D platformer, but actually being in the 3D platformer. So it's definitely worthwhile to check out. If you've got VR, it's one of the best VR titles, and that translates to this game.
Yeah, I really, really hope on the back of this phenomenal success that Sony fully embrace Astro Bot as their mascot. Like, you can have others, but how Mario is Nintendo's, but then you do have a whole cast of characters that can serve the role as well. Astro Bot could be the primary mascot for Sony. He's got the Sony he's got the current bloody color scheme as well. He looks like a Sony character.
Yeah, he's
more than like anyone like Sackboy or Crash Bandicoot ever did, really.
Yeah, and obviously they don't own, like, through other legal reasons, they don't own their own mascots. Like, I'm sure this may have been a Crash game if they didn't sell up to Universal and then by proxy Microsoft. Same with Spyro on that, and we know some have came and went.
Could you make this game with anyone other than Astro Bot, though, because of all the PlayStation references and how integrated PlayStation is to that world?
It's hard to say, but if you told me this game was exactly the same, but the character was Crash Bandicoot, and he was exploring through dimensions that Cortex has made, I could see it still working.
I think, though, that would be... I think the reception for that would be, it's PlayStation, like, bigging up themselves, where because it's Astro Bot...
It works.
It feels right. It feels natural, where Crash would feel forced.
Yeah, I mean, yes, pros and cons to both of it. And what I do hope, this really just reignites developers' urge. Because, I mean, we'll get onto it in a bit, but the Concord news is obviously the other side of the coin, where... We'll pivot over to it, where if anyone doesn't know, the news this week is like Astro immensely successful already, probably going to sell millions and millions of copies, Game of the Year contender. It's a single player 3D platformer. No online, no microtransactions, no skins, no season passes. On the flip side though, Concord from Firewalk Studios, which launched just over 2 weeks ago, to pitiful numbers. We covered it on last week's show, Richie. I think it had sold 25,000, 35,000 on Steam potentially. And Sony decided this past week, they put out a message saying the servers are going to be shut down indefinitely. And
refunds for everyone.
Refunds for people. And it's offline. As of time of recording on Sunday the 8th of September, it's no longer viable. It's done. And we don't know they haven't told us what's going to happen. I'll read from the PlayStation blog regarding an update regarding Concord from Ryan Ellis, who's the game director at Firewalk Studios. Concord fans, we've been listening closely to your feedback since the launch of Concord on PlayStation 5 and PC, and wanted to thank everyone who's joined us on the journey aboard the North Star. Your support and the passionate community that has grown around the game has meant the world to us. However, while many qualities of experience resonate with players, we also recognise that other aspects of the game and our initial launch didn't land the way we intended. Therefore, at this time, we've decided to take the game offline beginning September 6th and explore options, including those that will better reach our players. While we determine the best path ahead... You can?
I was just going to interject where they say all aspects of the game. I don't think it's aspects of the game. I just don't think anyone cared about it. I haven't really seen much criticism of the game.
Well, the game got seven.
I just haven't seen anyone care about the game. Yeah, but it's not like that's not a terrible game. I haven't seen people go, "Oh my god, this is an absolute broken mess" or anything. I've just said, "Don't care."
Yeah, it's good. It's a good, competent arena shooter with heroes. But
no one cares about.
Well, yeah, and that's I guess the problem. To continue reading, while we determine the best path ahead, Concord sales will cease immediately and will begin to offer a full refund for all the gamers who've purchased the game for PS5 or PC. If you purchase the game, blah blah blah, a refund will be issued via your original payment method. And then it goes on to tell you that Steam, Epic, other refunds. Once refunded, players will no longer have access to the game. We'll keep you updated, and thank you again to all the free gunners who've joined us in the Concord Galaxy. So that's the official PlayStation blog post. Where do we even start with this? This is unprecedented, right? I've never seen a AAA backed budget game from anyone really come out. We've seen them come out and then maybe fade away, and like Ubisoft did it with Hyperscape, where it was like it did okay and then it dwindled off, and then they just ended up pulling it for server price reasons, surely, but not within 2 weeks.
Usually you see a year for stuff like this before they start pulling the plug.
I mean, they highlighted their roadmap.
2 weeks.
They barely got the roadmap announced and out for like the first 2 seasons, and it's dead before it even had a chance to take off.
They made this decision so quickly that Concord branded DualSense controllers were probably still getting delivered to places. There were probably shipments of the box version of this game still in trucks going to retailers
Well, especially if it's fucking Amazon.
Yeah. But you know what I mean? It's like, that's how quick this decision's being made. It's like a lot of retailers probably haven't even got their stock on shelves for a lot of smaller retailers and stuff. Like it's unprecedented that in 2 weeks that they have enough data to go, oh shit, guys, this isn't going anywhere.
It's
I don't really know what else to say, to be honest. It's just it's dead on arrival.
It very much was dead on arrival. You've got to remember, there's like, is it 35 million? Or are we up to 60 now? PlayStation 5s in the wild. But the extra sting to this, Richie, is this came out on PC as well, and we saw the Steam numbers, the concurrence. I think we covered it last week. Sorry, Gollum had more peak concurrent players than this did. This is a live service multiplayer game intended for hundreds of thousands to play at once in massive multi-ranking systems. And Gollum, the worst rated game of last year, had more at its peak.
As I've said time and time again when we've covered this game, is why would you play this game over something that already exists? And I don't think Sony have ever tried to answer that question. And that is, for me, the question. If you're making the games, I don't hate games as a service, they're just not for me. But if you're making games as a service, that's the question you have to answer. Why this over that? Because there's so many games as a service games out there. To get an audience, you have to take it from somewhere else. There isn't much scope, I think, to develop new players into games as a service. There's a bit, but really, you're looking at someone else's audience and trying to steal them.
Yeah, it's saturation point.
You have to give a reason why. Why should Overwatch players abandon Overwatch to come over to Concord? What's the answer? The characters and stuff, like some of the trailers look a bit quirky. It could be interesting. I don't think that's enough to sell this game.
It's not enough, and I think there's a lot of things that have kind of compiled to its ultimate failure. And I think, as you're saying there, a lot of it is, who is this for? And if you want the crazy heroes and stuff, like Overwatch has that. If you want the fast frenetic shooting, like Apex has that. But they've been doing them for years now, and this is a game that, if it came out in 2017-16, it probably would have garnered a much better audience. But unfortunately, it looks like a Guardians of the Galaxy clone, which back in 2016, we'd had one movie. The second one was about to come out, I believe, and we had the whole Avengers thing. That's done and gone now. Like, that Guardians of the Galaxy team is disbanded. They're no longer really prevalent in pop culture, or at least anytime soon.
The MCU is at a low point as well.
So you've got a Guardians Galaxy clone, but if you want to play a Guardians Galaxy game, there's one there. It came out in 2018, and it was fantastic by Square Enix. So go play that. If you want a shooter with Marvel characters, guess what comes out later this year? Marvel Rivals, which is a hero arena shooter, but it's got the IP, and it's free.
Which, free to play, I think, is probably huge for the younger audience. We've got the money to buy a game if we want it. If you're 15 years old, you're on pocket money. Mm-hmm. £40 is a lot of money. It's a lot of money for me. But if you don't have that money, it's like, why would you pay? Why would you pay £40 for a game when you could be continuing to play the game you've always played with your friends? And that's the thing with games as a service. It is about the community. People will play your game because their friends are playing it.
Yeah. In
Helldivers, it's a separate conversation, I think, because of what that game is. It's not.
Well, I think that's partially the problem. You're saying it was free to play.
Yeah.
And it's not free to play. Sorry, that was one of its biggest hurdles to get over. I think Helldivers coming out of £40 and having the wild success it did, I think it's almost put Sony in a place of hubris where they look at it and go, well, it worked with Helldivers. We did PC and PlayStation multi-release. We made a shed ton of money. Look at the hype it got. Let's slap £40 on this, Concord as well. And there's a lot of things that it's not getting. Helldivers was a sequel, albeit it wasn't very well known, the first one, but it was a sequel. It mirrored a lot of the Starship Troopers goodwill, I feel, as well. And ultimately, it was player versus everyone else, not PvP. So you didn't need anyone else to play Helldivers. Like, it benefited it, but you didn't need it. This game rests on so many more things, and I think, as you said, Helldivers didn't have an equivalent out there on the market. Concord does. And it's got games that Overwatch was Game of the Year in 2016 for a lot of outlets. You're comparing Concord to a game it's done its hard work. It's got the plaudits, and it's got its audience. And you need to take away from that. sheerly by doing a poor quality mirror image of it, it isn't enough in today's world.
Well, my brother my brother loves Helldivers, by the way, because he loves co-op games.
Mm-hmm.
And he's always disappointed that there isn't many. He's not really a single-player game, but he also isn't a PvP gamer.
Yeah.
So he loves co-op games. Him and his mate Peter play a lot of... I see them all the time on Discord, like playing Helldivers on PC.
Mm-hmm.
So Helldivers attracts people like that, gamers who are in their mid to late 30s, who like to just socialise, playing with one or two friends, and jump in and play a game while they're having a natter or maybe a beer or something or whatever. He wouldn't touch Concord. He'd go nowhere near it. And he wouldn't buy a console. So this is the thing where Helldivers has attracted a lot of kind of hardcore PC gamers who let's be fair, probably skew older than console gamers in terms of the average age.
Yeah, I would say so.
So I think Helldivers is a unique gem that can carve out its own niche.
Yeah.
And a strong one. Concord is put slap bang in the middle of a very crowded niche. That's why I look at them different. Helldivers is off to the side. It's a single player game that's predominantly happens to be online playing with other people, rather than this is a multiplayer PvP game. So you need the audience there.
It does also help that Helldivers is absolutely fantastic and fun as well. Like, Helldivers was my game of the year until Astro Bot. Like, even though it is more
10 years ago,
online,
Concord, I think, is a success.
Yeah, I agree. It's just not the right time. Drilling down a little bit deeper into Sony's reason behind it, as we said, this has never happened before. They've never taken a live game. I mean, they've not had many, to be fair, but outside of Helldivers, this was their second crack of the whip, and 2 weeks, and they're just like, you know what, pull it. So I guess follow-up questions for that, Richie. One, will Concord be back in some guise? I think surely is the next step not free to play, PlayStation Plus? Like, are they just totally right? Is this a tax write-off, basically? Are they doing a Warner Brothers and just going, you know what, we've refunded everyone, therefore we can look at this from a financial standpoint and go right off the 200 plus million, and it's just done. We'll count our loss and we'll move on.
I think they've looked at the sales within the first 2 weeks and went, sales have probably already plateaued. The game's gone nowhere. To keep the servers online, keep this going, will cost them more money. Probably then it would be to just kill the game and give the refunds. I don't necessarily think it's a tax write-off. It's like trying to keep this alive. It's just going to cost us a shit ton of money. And is it realistically ever going to be profitable? Probably not. So kill it before you sink too much time and effort in.
Yeah,
I think that's why they're probably not thinking about the tax. They'll probably think about the tax when they start doing the bookkeeping on it properly, rather than like what's the projection in terms of the finance of this. It's a financial decision. There's no hiding that.
Yeah,
they've made a financial decision to end this game.
It almost mirrors the same difficulties Warner Brothers had with, they put out Suicide Squad, cost them a shed ton of money, but they were saved by the success of Hogwarts Legacy. In a weird way, Concord shit the bed and cost them a ton of money, and the random unfound success of Helldivers will balance the books, for lack of a better term, over the long tax year and financials. I think, I don't think it's a tax write-off. I do think, because the game's finished, and it's playable, and it's a good game. Remember, this game got 7s across the board for the most part. It's on par with Star Wars Outlaws as far as reviews go. I think this should have always been a PlayStation Plus game. We saw things like Fall Guys and stuff do really well. Rocket League did mega well for being on PlayStation Plus because it got the players in on the ground level. I think if you're a kid, as you said, and you don't have £40 to spend, you are more than likely going to check this out over a weekend if it's free, as opposed to going, Mum, Dad, can I have £40 please to play this unknown title? No, Timmy, go play Overwatch. You've been playing that for years. Or Minecraft, or one of the other many, many free titles now. And I think if I was at Sony, I think the game's received well enough from a review standpoint to maybe put it on ice for a month or so and then come back and say, look, it's free on PlayStation Plus. Here's a bunch of freebie perks, whatever the skins and stuff are, to kind of just give it that edge and have at least one last effort, because you've got a studio sat there essentially not do anything if that's the case.
Yeah, I don't know. I think either you need to be put into like hibernation for a significant period of time to overhaul what the game is, or you need to change the business model and go again and hope. But you only get one shot at that, so they need to probably take the time to think through what is the best approach. And going by the blog, it seems they think it was the gameplay that wasn't well received. I don't necessarily think it's the gameplay. The gameplay looks absolutely fine. It looks exactly what you'd expect an arena shooter to be.
Mm-hmm.
What's the special sauce of this game? As I mentioned with Astro Bot, what's the special sauce that makes it stand out in a genre? And you could tell me that. What is it in this game? I don't think they know. I really don't know. I honestly think, unfortunately, for this game, is probably maybe you put this on ice, you bring out an animated series, get people fall in love with the characters and that. Well, then you bring back the game or something. I really don't know.
Well, funny you should mention that, because
how you handle this
in the Amazon animated show, which was revealed at Gamescom, the Secret Level animated series, one of the episodes is focused on Concord. And they've had to come out and say, like, I know the game's on ice at the moment, but the Concord episode will still is part of the series. Who knows what that looks like? It's obviously going to be the characters from the game.
Well, you've got an episode from an Amazon launch coming. Stick it, go free. Just stick it one last chance. Free to play. Here you go, guys. And roll the dice on it with that level to a dual launch to try and get back in. Use that level, that Amazon show to get you back in the headlines. Go free to play. And you have to recalibrate how your monetization structure.
Yeah,
you might get a few people in. You might be able to call back, but I don't know. I really don't know who's going to go for it.
Yeah, it's an odd one all around.
The thing is, because it's 7 out of 10, while it's a competent game like Star Wars Outlaws, a competent game, is that enough to for people to give it a second shot?
I don't know. I mean, it has Star Wars, the other one, so it's got an IP under it, like Marvel Rivals. It has the weight of history and legacy.
And Star Wars Outlaws are also a single-player game. You mentioned the Star Wars IP. There's people who look at it and go, it's only 7 out of 10. I wish it was looking at an 8 or 9, but I like Star Wars. I like open world Ubisoft games. I'm going to go for it.
Yeah. It's maybe telling that PlayStation seemingly didn't push this themselves. We just had Gamescom, which is the largest fan event in this industry of the year, and there was no presence there. They weren't shown off on the show floor. There was no promotional material. They weren't on stage at any event. Jeff Keighley didn't put another trailer out there to like celebrate the imminent launch of the game. So it makes you wonder internally.
Should have been doing tournaments and all sorts.
Yeah, it makes you wonder internally, was this done? And I guess my follow-up to that is, was this game just already so close to the finish line that Sony was like, just get it out? Because I reckon this decision was made when they made the decision on Last of Us Factions. I think they all got together, went, right, what's going through? And they went, well, Factions is a good year or so out and it's going to cost this much more money because it's Naughty Dog, so it's going to cost more to produce that quality. Concord, what about you? And they went, we're about 99% done. It's like, right, you guys can go out. Naughty Dog, knock yours on the head. We're not doing it. Helldivers, you're ready to go. You crack on. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like this game was already so far done, you might as well have put it out, whereas Factions wasn't.
It's too far along for its own go.
And it's done that bad. They've just went, you know what, right, it didn't work, bring it back. We should have just canned it.
I think they've been maybe a bit lax with the marketing because they've done a handful of trailers and stuff. But I think the marketing for a game like this, the games as a service, you're better off doing the rounds of like influencers, getting loads of Twitch streamers together in a room, getting them playing games, get them on a month on the lead up to. Go to all the big outlets, go to the smaller outlets, like with a decent fan base and decent following, especially for live stream content. Put it in the hands and have some games with the developers on hand.
Yeah, like
that's the kind of thing I think this game kind of needs. Because if you put this in the hand of a bunch of Twitch streamers who are like doing hundreds of thousands of views in like a stream,
yeah,
so then you got hundreds of thousands views that's worth of eyes on it.
Yeah, but then you still ask them for 40 quid.
And they got this Twitch streamer who, let's be fair, being cynical here, getting paid to say they like the game, is telling his audience that he likes the game. Like
it's a whole cacophony of
I don't know, it's a miss.
Really.
It's a miss, unfortunately.
My next question, I guess, to follow up on all this is the future of Firewalk Studios. to put the finances into perspective for this is their first game. So aside from this game, they have no income. So Naughty Dog, yes, they can factions, but they had other titles bringing them in money. Firewalk Studios formed in like 2018, I think it was, and if you recall, they were acquired by PlayStation only last year. So they saw enough in them to buy them and make them first party last year. But there was an article this week from the head of... do you remember Knockout City that was made? I think it was like the dodgeball-esque game. The head of that studio was interviewed by GamesIndustry.biz, and he said, based on what he knows about live service, because that's what Knockout City was, 50-person team would come to about £500,000 or dollars in labour every month. So Firewalk Studios, as it stands, have about 150 staff, so triple that. And it's been in development.
It's between 1 and 2 million probably pounds or dollars a year.
And they've said
a month.
Concord's been in development for 8 years, which is a bit odd because the studio was only founded in 2018, so the dates don't quite line up with what they're saying. But Concord at £40 a pop for the people who did buy it, if it made, say, 25,000 sales, that's like $1 million. But AAA games, if it's polishing its quality, tend to cost probably between 100 and 200 for what we're seeing. So this game's been eaten in the red for many, many years up to launch. They've made $1 million, but then they've offered refunds for everybody, so surely that's eaten up and gone. So this game is just a sunken cost of probably about £250,000. You've got a studio who have no income. This is their first game, so they've not brought any like gravitas with them, like, oh look, it's the next game from Guerrilla, it's the next game from Bethesda. It's just new studio, new game, absolute failure. My worry is this 150 support studio, are these just done? Are they destined to be shut down with everyone else, or do the team get a second go at it? Because this is Sony's probably biggest loss in their history in terms of money and negative press.
Well, I think that's the thing with games as a service. Either it's a hit or not. There's very few. Yeah, it's fine. It did well enough. You don't really get that in games as a service. Either it succeeds or it doesn't. It's a big gamble. I think they're done. I think the smart business decision, unfortunately, is this studio is done.
Yeah, they've not got any pedigree to go back to. They've not got any IP that they can go, oh, well, it's okay. Concord wasn't good, but let's go back to our great platformer we made in the 2000s or our great shooter we used to make. It's like, no, this is it. This is all you have on the table.
It depends what Sony has in the works, because maybe you can move a lot of these staff into other projects and different teams. You can maybe kit out Firewalk to be
Astro Bot Support Studio
for other games as a service stuff. I was thinking they keep them in the games as a service stuff, because I don't think Sony are wrong to do some games as a service stuff. You might need some, like maybe Firewalk becomes a support studio for Bungie.
Helldivers. Like
Helldivers,
they need more people to work, because like they're quite slow at getting updates out at the moment. I think they've got like a 60-day plan, but it's like they've had no new content out since February. Really, like skins is one thing, but for a live service, it'd be difficult if you're going, assuming you're putting a pin in Concord, it's done. It's not coming back. It'd be difficult to justify giving that studio greenlight another project. But you can't. That doesn't mean you have to get rid of the staff. Doesn't mean you have to get rid of the studio. It's like, what can we do with that? It's like, as you mentioned, Helldivers. This looks like they could do with a hand. So, okay, Firewalk. We're going to transition you to be a support studio for Helldivers. Those who don't want to do that, we'll go. Here's a bunch of opportunities within the Sony family. That is the advantage of being a huge publisher. You can go, right, you're going there, 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 and you can just move people into projects and try and retain the
your talent. Yeah. The people that try and retain the people. The studio's a name. It's the people that matter.
Yeah, I completely agree.
So if you can find a way to utilize them, and there's probably ways to do that within Sony. Some people will lose their jobs. Just I hope Sony is smart and empathetic to their people to find a way to minimize that.
Yeah, and realistically, that's the cost of failure. Like, you put out a product that cost £250,000 and you made no profit at all, it seems. Like, zero.
Yep.
Zero profit in an industry that's mega rich.
Well, it is zero profit because they're refunding everyone.
Yeah, absolutely nothing. So, as far as looking at the people there, like the game looks great, looks well polished and finished off, and it reviewed well. It just didn't land for whatever reason. It was the bad choice that was maybe 8 years too late. But I agree with you. Out of 150 staff, you could easily go, right, Arrowhead, there's 50 support staff to help get some new Helldivers content, because Helldivers was a mega success. I think Helldivers suffered from the Division problem, where it was so good, they got caught off guard. They had no roadmap plan for new content. Just like the Division ended, and everyone was like, whoa, we want more Division content. And Ubisoft were like, oh shit, our team's working on other things now, and they're now backtracking. So 50 more people added to Arrowhead would be hugely beneficial. Astro Bot just came out, mega success. They're going to want to turn around another Astro Bot game ASAP. So what do? Astro Bot, it's Asobi, 60 people, Richie. Give them another 40 from Firewalk. You're up to 100 now. That helps polish and get another game out sooner.
What's Naughty Dog currently working on? There's people there. Insomniac could probably use more people because they've got a million things on the go.
Got a million Marvel properties.
Santa Monica, they've got studios that there's probably scope for to take on people.
Who's making VR games for Sony anymore? No one, seemingly.
You got Bungie. There's going to be for scope there. Obviously, you got Helldivers. There's got places for people to go.
So we agree, Firewalk.
You mentioned how this game. Yes, as a studio, I hope they keep the people. Yeah. You mentioned this game was like 8 years ago. 8 years ago was kind of the height of Overwatch. Mm-hmm. So they're already chasing the trend, and it took them 8 years to execute.
Yeah, This is where the flip side of Astro Bots, if it's taught us anything, it's like do what you want or what you think is right. How many times we hear developers say, well, we wanted to do this, but the board or the chair people said, this is what's popular in the industry. We've seen Warner Brothers mess up with it. We've seen Activision. We've seen Ubisoft. We've now seen Sony mess up with it. We've seen Xbox do it with Redfall. Redfall would have been a much better game if it was just a single-player vampire story. But no, it had to have the multiplayer, this and that. Suicide Squad, you can't just slap an IP on it and it does well. I think the industry needs to take a long, hard look at itself and go, stop chasing trends and set them. Be creative. Yeah. Use your talent to tell amazing stories and have fun experiences. Stop looking at what everyone else is doing, trying to copy that. Do your own thing. And hopefully Astro Bot is showing that that's the kind of the direction you want to be going in for success.
Out of curiosity, I just Googled Fortnite Battle Royale. That was 2017. That was 7 years ago.
Yeah.
So this game has been in conception longer than before Fortnite Battle Royale. So that's the timeline we're talking. It's too long for a game like that.
Too little, too late.
You need to be in front of the trends for games as a service. Because if you're lagging behind, you get Concord. If you're in front of it, you get PUBG.
Yeah.
PUBG is a buggy, kind of janky mess. But it revolutionized the entire genre. Yeah.
By doing something new and original. And that's the thing. And the movie industry, the TV industry, they all suffer from it. Originality. But if you get it
try
right,
to be too safe.
Yeah. But
they went too safe and it's bit them in the ass.
Yeah. And in another world, Concord with the characters and the IP, because again, the characters seemingly look like a witty, fun group of what are the gun runners or something. But maybe if it was a single-player story and they were your sidekicks and they told a great story in that world of space exploration and maybe visiting a few planets, we would have all been sat here going, you know what, that was hilarious. I laughed so much playing that game. The gunplay was fun. But instead, this is what we get.
I'm thinking like a comic take on Mass Effect.
Yeah. So, but RIP Concord, I guess, maybe. We'll see if they're back in some guys. If it goes PlayStation Plus, we'll probably check it out at some point. But for now, that's it. Let us know in the comments below if you were playing Concord or if you're going to play Astro Bot instead. No, if you had, maybe. Back to Astro Bot, what I was thinking of actually is like when you're saying about what happens next. Would you like to see an Astro Bot kart racer?
Oh, that could be interesting.
With all of the IP?
A Sony mascot kart racer with like Astro Bot as like kind of the lead. Yeah. Astro Kart.
Yeah. I'd take that. Astro Kart racing.
Oh, and like weapons, you can have things like Kratos' axe, which you can throw at enemies because it has a lock on and comes back.
Now
to
you're
you.
thinking.
You got Aloy's different arrows.
Yeah.
Spider-Man's webs to like traps.
And if you look at the history of mascots, that's what happens as well. Is you do a couple of games in your series, then you do a kart racer, then you do a Mario Party-esque game where it's loads of fun multiplayer mini games, and that's what you do. The other thing I was thinking, I mentioned about all the PlayStation IP that was scattered throughout it. Obviously, you can't keep doing that because eventually it's like, right, we've done this now. We've seen all the PlayStation characters, seen video game history. I kind of think they should go the Lego route and just do a Disney and a Marvel and a Star Wars one. Like, imagine an Astro Bot game, but it's Han Solo skin, it's a Jabba skin, and you get to go to all the planets in Star Wars, but as Astro Bots. You get that whimsical Lego feeling instead.
Marvel could be a good start there because they've already got Spider-Man.
Yeah, I mean, Astro Bot.
Spider-Man's the intro.
Yeah, and Astro Bot's got Iron Man features. He's got his laser feet. He's got his suit he's on, I guess. But yeah, I think there's something there with Astro, like you said, I think probably half an hour ago. So you said about he can embody multiple characters. So if you've got an IP and a franchise that's got multiple characters and you want to explore those worlds, I'd quite happily walk around like a Disney Magic Kingdom as Astro Bot, and I get to bump into random characters like the Beast from Beauty and the Beast, and there's a level that happens in that world. Like, yeah, that's family-friendly fun all over the place.
If you go the Disney route, you've also got scope for like the cross-pollination of things like Dreamlight Valley.
Yeah. Well,
he's DLC for Astro Bot DLC for Dreamlight Valley.
Yeah. I mean, Dreamlight Valley is kind of that. Like, take that world, but let me run around and like collect coins, like Astro Bot gameplay, but in that beautiful world.
I actually couldn't see them doing that for Dreamlight Valley. Dreamlight Valley is very strict on the core Disney cast.
Yeah, but future potential for Astro Bot.
You're not going to get the Marvel stuff in there. Yeah, it's huge.
I could see it. I could see the Concord characters. Actually, Concord don't show up in Astro Bot, I don't think, which is quite telling as well.
It could be just a time of development thing, though.
It could be. Moving on, though, we've got another bit. Kind of where I want to go. I guess, original IP, Richie. Just as a quick one off the back of as we're talking about kart races and how we can get into it.
We'll cover this quick.
Yeah, Sony's chief financial officer Hiroki Totoki. I still love that name. After the announcement of Concord being pulled, he was interviewed by the Financial Times, and he said we're lacking in the early phase of IP, and it's an issue for us. One thing that you need is IP. That's step one. In the same article, it goes on to say, and if you don't start creating or buying those that do, you're at risk of someone else doing it. He was referencing Sony in general, so that includes like film and anime, so it's not just the gaming sector.
Okay.
But I just wanted to say they have plenty of IP to fall back on if they need it. Resistance, Killzone, Uncharted, Infamous, Wipeout, Twisted Metal, Little Big Planet, RIP, Jack and Daxter, Sly Cooper, Bloodborne, where's the sequel? Gravity Rush, Parappa the Rapper, Medieval, Horizon, Ghost of Tsushima, Last of Us. They have plenty of original IP, more so than nearly anyone else in the industry. Nintendo have been leaning on their IP for 40 years now. It's very rare they do something new.
They might have The Order.
The Order, I didn't get that on the list. But there's more than enough.
The studio was shut down. Potentially, I don't know where the rights are, but maybe Meta, whatever share of the rights they have, might be willing to sell.
Yeah. But if you look at just
ring them, give them a
general franchises, like I get the movies, like they've been struggling with things like they've got Ghostbusters, they've got James Bond, but everything new they put out doesn't really land. But I do have to go back again. Concord. Would Concord have done more if it was a Killzone game? And you're bringing in an existing fan base who are maybe hungry for another thing in that universe. Yes, it might not be a single-player story that they're familiar with, but it's got the characters of the Hellghast and stuff. It's got the solid gunplay that you expect. But Sony are like, no, we're going to go with a brand new IP with unknown characters, as opposed to maybe leaning on the history a bit more. Shadowfall was the last game we got in the PlayStation 4 launch for Killzone.
I don't know.
Resistance?
I think the hero shooters genre is very, very full, and you've got Overwatch is probably the biggest exponent of it, but then you've got things like what's it called, Valorant, which is a free-to-play one. So I think there's already saturation there. I think unless it was like a huge IP, I don't think I don't think the IP with Concord's the problem. I think it's the time of release. It's probably about at least 5 years late, and it's how it was marketed, and the fact that it just didn't seem to do anything new or groundbreaking in the genre. It just seemed to me another solid exponent of a genre that's already saturated. But so,
did you ever play the Killzone games?
I did not.
Or any of them? They are like the solid shooters. The Hellgast is some very interesting villains. It's one of those titles and one of those franchises that I feel like if you went back to it now, it probably holds up quite well. You know, like a lot of the old PS3 360 ones have done when we've gone back, like Gears. It's like, oh shit, this actually looks great still.
Yeah.
Plays quite well. But yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, franchises through and through. Infamous as well. Like they've got stuff to do. It's just rather than put all their eggs in this live.
Come back.
Yeah. Instead, when in a world where superheroes do so well, why wouldn't you do it? But then after the success of Astro, you've got to imagine they're looking at Sackboy, Sly Cooper, Jack and Daxter, and going like, "Look, we've got another couple of platformers here that could benefit."
Even if they don't want Infamous to be a game, it's a TV. There's a TV show in there, or a movie,
superhero. Movie.
Look how successful The Boys has been. Like as a dark, grittier, like superhero thing.
Mm-hmm.
Infamous. That's what Infamous kind of is. I think there's something good in there. Twisted Metal, I don't care about.
Yeah,
but they did better than I was expecting it to.
Yeah, I mean, some of them, like Infamous in particular, is kind of stuck on an old generation as well. Infamous 1 and 2 are on PS3. Like you can't play them on PS4. So I feel like maybe test the water with a remake or a remaster of the 1 and 2. Yeah, you can play Second Son on PS5. So that's okay.
I'm thinking outside of the gaming space, taking these gaming IP outside of it and see how it could work. So something like Medieval, I think, as long as you get the comedy right, I think there could be something hilarious like movie in there.
Yeah,
nothing groundbreaking, but a good family-friendly comedy.
Yeah. Or even just a kids animation show with like a quirky skeleton guy who explores different worlds and stuff. It could work. They have plenty. They have absolutely plenty. Instead of greenlighting 50 more Horizon Zero Dawn projects, like a movie and a series and 10 more games, why not look wider? But I think it's interesting. I do actually think the success of Astro will maybe spare on one or two more platformers. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Ubisoft react and go like, oh shit, let's get another Rayman game out. I've been saying we need a Rayman game for 5+ years now. So everyone who's got a platformer, I'm looking at you, Croc and Gex. You've got your remasters coming up. Like, let's get a new entry in this series. But Richie, let's pivot towards some news that's not PlayStation specific and look at the kind of wider gamut. Space Marine 2, or Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2, launches this week. It actually launches today, September 9th, officially. If you bought the deluxe editions, you'll have got it a couple of days early at the beginning of the weekend on all platforms. It too is doing really, really well. So for every Concord, there's something else on the other side of the coin. Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine 2 is currently sitting at an 83 on Metacritic. It's getting great reviews, 8s and 9s all over the board. Of course, we have the full gameplay of Space Marine 1 up on our channel now, played on PlayStation 3, speaking of old titles. And yeah, across the board, Richie, it's doing really, really well. And it's getting to a point where I'm like tempted now to just pick it up. I've got Outlaws sat there. I'm like 20 odd hours into Outlaws. I'm near the end of that campaign, but now I've got Astro Bot, which I'm probably going to platinum by next week, let's be honest. And then this coming out, I'm looking at it and I'm like, you know what? I could probably go for some. I think it might be because I really enjoy Space Marine 1. I think you'd really enjoy it as well, just for that. Like that Warhammer world is so rich and good and fun.
Yeah.
And it's gears, and this is from the people who, like the studio that's doing it now. It's not Relic Entertainment, it's Saber. So these are the folks who did World War Z, and they've took the World War Z engine and the mechanics of the Hordes and applied them to the Tyranids, I think they're called in Space Marine, which are basically like alien. I know you've been watching the Alien movies with your girlfriend. It's basically they're just xenomorphs. Go in with your Space Marine. It's up to 3-player co-op online as well, which it's such a shame that you can't gift like the second player to someone. So I would buy it and gift you a code to play with me, because I think this would be great on stream for two of us. But the game looks beautiful. It's running in Unreal Engine, and so far, just reading some of the reviews, I'll read from Games Radar. They give it an 8 out of 10. Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine 2 is an exceptionally larger-than-life shooter that raises the bar for all Warhammer adaptations. A dizzying sense of scale, along with some of the slickest combat around, will leave you often breathless, but always grinning. That's a great start. Again, visually, looks beautiful. I put it akin to just like a Gears of War game, and I think we both really, really enjoyed Gears of War 1 when we played it. Reading from Gamerant, they give it a 9 out of 10. Even without knowing the law around Warhammer, this game does a great job at inviting new fans into the franchise by showing the unwavering courage, sacrifice, and devotion of these super soldiers. But that doesn't mean things are dumbed down to disrespect die-hard fans. Being a veteran of the franchise isn't essential to enjoy Space Marine 2. While it might further satisfy the experience, the universe is brought to life with such detail, it makes for a perfect getaway for newcomers. And I think that's what I enjoyed about Space Marine 1 the most, was just... it was such a video game-ass video game. It was like, get into it, tear shit up, use a variety of weapons, melee combat, grenades, bombs, Gatling gun down hordes to your delight, and just, you know, just that satisfaction you get from Doom, where it's just, I'm just kicking the shit out of monsters, and it's fun. And that's what this game's doing. And I love the Warhammer world from back in my paint and miniature days. Obviously, I don't think this is one that you're going to pick up anytime soon, but I think it's one that we would both ultimately enjoy.
Yeah, it sounds like another, like Astro Bot. It's a video game. It knows what it is, and it does what it is very well. And I think for me, yeah, it is on my radar, but I haven't played Space Marine 1. I don't actually have access to it. It's on PlayStation Plus, isn't it? But is it on like Premium or Extra?
I don't think it's on any. I played it on PlayStation 3.
Oh, you actually bought it on PS?
I had the disc from back in the day, yeah. So
this is where it would be nice to see the first one come to PlayStation Plus if it isn't already.
No, I don't think so.
And this come eventually. I'm not talking now.
Today.
Yeah, it's a game I'd like to play at some point.
Yeah.
It's not a game I'm looking at and going, need to play now because I'm already about to start Jedi Survivor. Mm-hmm. I've got Zelda Echoes of Wisdom coming in a few weeks, which I am planning a live stream on launch day off. If Amazon keeps their shit together.
You never know. You never know.
Amazon. And then I've got an eye on Star Wars Outlaws, and
there's a lot.
There's a lot.
It's a busy back end to the year, and it's a big shame about that co-op code, because I remember when It Takes Two did it. When if you bought a copy of the game, you got a code to invite a friend to play along, which I think was such a clever marketing move. This game's up to 3 people, so in your campaign you have yourself, and then you got 2 sidekicks. And when you drop in co-op, it's like a Lego game. You essentially take the body of one of those sidekicks, so that it doesn't impact the campaign really at all. But you can play through it with other people. But yeah, it's one of them where it looks fun. It is just basically how the coins land. So if I get through Astro Bot this week, and I'll probably go back to Outlaws. But you know me, I'm one that I like to see out a game before moving on.
Yeah, I'm the same.
But the edge of like just getting it, like the patience side of me is like, just hold off, Chris. You don't need to play it. I want to do a video for the channel. I think that's it, because I played one so recently. I'm ready to go for the second one, but finances cost money. Join from as little as 99p down below.
Well, we don't actually take the money out of the account for
we don't, yeah. But it helps ease the pain, at least, if I'm dropping another 50 quid on a game.
Yeah, well, this is the thing where I'm at with gaming, is like, unless the game I want day and date like I do with Echoes of Wisdom, I'm just happy to hold off. Because I got I think it was about 30 quid I paid for Jedi Survivor. Yeah. If I bought that a year ago, it's 70 quid. So this is why I'm happy to hold on. It's just a financial decision.
Yeah.
The curse of being an adult.
Absolutely. And when we talk about success, and again, keep going back to it, but the Concord news, as I said at the beginning of this story, it had early access. So if you paid a little bit more, like £20 you got like a couple of extra Space Marine skins and stuff like that. It was Steam's top seller.
Right,
over the weekend.
It's a huge thing.
Yeah, it's huge. I can't actually see the numbers because the actual pitch is really, really small, but it looks like... I mean, it was number 1 on the Steam chart, so it actually... It pipped this week Black Myth Wukong. We've got a story about soon, ahead of like the usual like Counter-Strikes and Apex and stuff like that. But just to get there, and bear in mind, this is early access release. This isn't full launch, which is today, day of the show goes live. And yet we're looking at Concord going, it barely sold 25, didn't have more than 1,000 concurrent players. And a Space Marine, which for all intents and purposes is probably more AA, it's from the Embracer Group. It's a sequel to a game that's 10-year-old at this point. And yet, because of the IP attached to it, it's got this like resounding, it's done the marketing right, they've showed off gameplay videos, it's got a bit of everything, it's got co-op, it's got multiplayer, it's got like the Horde modes from Gears of War. Doing well. Henry Cavill's going to lap this up.
We don't really have time in this show to discover, but is Embracer starting to find their feet a bit?
Dead Island 2? did really well.
Dead Island 2,
Warhammer?
Space Marine 2.
Anything with a 2?
Yeah.
SpongeBob 2? Either way, I'm just happy to see them succeed because not necessarily embrace it, but the Space Marine IP.
I'm happy to see anyone in the video game industry succeed because it's a industry I'm passionate about. I want success. Everyone succeed, please.
Everyone, especially us.
Even Concord.
Even Concord, absolutely. But speaking of success, the follow-up story to this, I guess, is the continuation of Black Myth Wukong's domination. We reported last week it sold over 10 million units in 3 days. Well, after a further week on sale, the breakout success is following on from Palworld and Helldivers, and it's picked up the mantle, and seemingly in 2 weeks it's now topped over 18 million units sold, which is adding an additional 8 from last week. So this is, again, huge. It's doing really, really well. There's a lot of people playing it out there, millions and millions of them. And obviously we know the implications of China added a lot of it, because it's a lot of people who suddenly bought a game that maybe otherwise they wouldn't show interest in, like a westernized game. But you know what? Sales are sale, money's money, regardless of how much of it goes back into the Chinese government's pot. Black Myth Wukong, in fact, stellar success. So yeah, you got Astro, you got Wukong, you got Space Marine, and one of them had to lose out, and it looks like it was Concord.
I think we have 4 of our Game of the Year contenders now.
I think so as well.
I think there's Black Myth Wukong, Astro Bot, Helldivers, and probably Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Earlier in the year.
Is Final Fantasy getting shafted a bit, do we think, now? Like it did last year for 16?
I think maybe. I know there was a bit of like sales stuff when it first came out, but it's sitting on a Metacritic of over 90.
Yeah.
That's why I'm including it in this list as a contender. I think it's Astro Bot or Helldivers to lose. If Helldivers has a good back end of the year, it's probably Helldivers. But I think Astro Bot might pip it at this point. I feel like Helldivers took a little bit off the boil a bit. Not doing badly, but it's no longer the zeitgeist game as it was.
Recency bias definitely plays into it to some degree.
Black Myth, I think, is in the list.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you sell 18 million copies in 2 weeks without being on the list.
Yeah, I agree. It's one of them weird ones where it felt like quite a quiet year. Stellar Blade reviewed quite well as well. That was like 86, I think, give or take. But that's what happens is you kind of get through the year and you hit this particular part as we go into the final quarter, and you go like, oh shit, everything's coming out, which is great for us because we get to talk about stuff. It's in the news, and but yeah, as we wind down this show, Richie, I think last story of the week, Minecraft the movie, live action movie, has got its first trailer. Came out this week. I don't know if you've seen it. Watched it?
No.
React to it?
Honestly, I just don't care about it. I'm not a Minecraft guy. This movie is not for me.
It's coming under a lot of criticism. More so because it is live action, and I think Minecraft would have maybe benefited from just being pure animation. Jack Black is back, and he seems to be taking the flak. Didn't expect to rhyme there. Off the back, it's an interesting one with the Internet of Things, isn't it? Because I feel like because of the whole, I'm guessing you've seen like the Kyle Gass Donald Trump comment thing, and they cancelled their tour.
Yeah, but that's not necessary.
It's not, but you know,
linked to Jack
all,
Black.
But you know, the internet works.
He cancelled the tour because he didn't agree. Yeah. From what I understand on that.
But by association, you know how the internet works. And then he did the voiceover for Claptrap in the worst reviewed movie of the year, Borderlands. And it's almost like now things seem to be turning on him, which the internet's the internet. I don't care. I love Jack Black. I think he's fantastic. But being in this, he's essentially Minecraft Steve, and he rocks up in the trailer, which I'm sure you're watching now, and just goes like, "Oh, I'm Steve," and he's just wearing a t-shirt basically, and it just looks like Jack Black just walking on a set in a t-shirt, and the other bunch of characters don't get it, and people have been criticizing the animations, maybe of some of the characters that they're beloved for being in Minecraft. This feels like a movie that should have been animated. I've seen a lot of people joke and say the Minecraft Story Mode, which is the Telltale game that came out like 6-7 years ago, they're apologizing to that now, saying we actually got a Minecraft movie and it was playable and it was by Telltale at the height of their success. I have the Platinum Trophy in Minecraft Story Mode. One, I think there was a second one, I can't really remember it. I enjoyed it. It was just Minecraft graphics with Patton Oswalt doing the voice of the main guy, Steve. I think it was Steve. And it was fun and it was enjoyable, and my decisions had impact and it told a story. But yeah, this trailer it's got like World of Warcraft movie vibes to it, where I don't think it's what the fans want. And Jack Black's maybe, in the live actions, maybe a bit overspent.
I think yes and no. I think this is probably going to be a massive success. What I think
Minecraft.
we're hearing is you're hearing the long-standing Minecraft fans who are probably in the mid-30s going, oh my God, they're making a kids movie out of this. But I'm looking at this and going, this is a kids movie.
It's got video game movie vibes, and like we've had really good adaptations of late, but I do think it's got like just big movie vibes where they're like just taking an IP, make something with it.
It's got the kind of juvenile humor, like there's a pink sheep doing like yawning and stuff. It's like that. I think kids seem to gravitate towards. Where I'm just like, meh. That's why I said this is not for me.
Yeah,
and I think you have to understand that. While you may be a Minecraft fan, everything Minecraft does might not be for you, and this is probably one of them situations.
I think so. There's certain IP. Like I've enjoyed the Sonic movies as a Sonic fan.
See, I am a Sonic fan, but I found the portrayal of Sonic in Sonic 1 very irritating.
I agree. It wasn't probably closer to the character counterpart, which in the second and third movie, it seems to be like they're getting more there, and they're getting. But away
I'm an old
from
man. It's a kids movie.
I think a lot of movies though have just gone through that phase where it's like, right, put them in the real world. So like with Sonic, it's like, right, let's just take San Francisco, let's just take some real actors, and we'll add him into it. So it's not actually focused on the worlds that we know in the games.
Yeah.
It's like, at what point in this Minecraft movie are these human beings? Is the opening 20 minutes of the Minecraft movie just shot in New York? And they go through a portal that takes them to Minecraft world. So we actually get the cheap part of the movie, which saves millions of pounds because it's not animated, of them just recording on the streets buying a hot dog. And then, they get sucked into a portal Jumanji style. And then now we're in the animation.
I do agree, it feels like a Minecraft movie should be an animated film. I also think Jack Black's probably a mistake because he's been in too much recently.
He's a video game fan.
Yeah, he is, but he's also Claptrap, he's also Bowser. It's like you can't cast him in everything.
Yeah. You should just go back and do Jablinski games again on YouTube and just play random games with his kids.
Yeah.
Like he did through lockdown. That was funny. But he's got that song. What's the video game song? Don't want to play video games no more. Don't play video games.
I don't know if I've heard it.
Tenacious D. It's called Video Games, I think. It's like 2 minutes long. Give it a listen. It's quite good. Red Dead Redemption is not a game. It's what are the lyrics? Red Dead Redemption is not a game. It's a way of life or something like that. It's quite a fun video actually. But we end every show every week as we do. We're looking at this day in video game history. September 8th is the date of recording. Anything stand out for you on this day?
I want to go back a day.
You want to go back a day?
To the Saturday,
rewind.
September the 7th. Because we have a banger.
Is it Final Fantasy by any chance?
Which one?
You tell me. You're the Final Fantasy guy.
So 27 years ago, Final Fantasy VII, which is a game that's still in one of the greatest games of all time conversation, came out. 25 years ago, Final Fantasy VIII came out.
Not a bad day for Final Fantasy fans.
No, 20 years ago, Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green came out. Amazing games.
They were the remakes, right? Like
they're the remakes of the original ones. Actual remakes of the original ones. And to this day, they're the versions. If you want to play Gen 1, that I'd go for.
Right.
Forget the Let's Go shit. They're the ones.
Right. Any other ones?
Mark of the Ninja.
6 years ago, Marvel Spider-Man.
Yeah. I told you it was a banger.
It was. I remember playing Marvel Spider-Man and just being like, swinging through those streets for the first time and being like, this is so fun. Like, absolute escapism at its finest. Nothing really on the 8th, unfortunately, looking back at a couple of days. Going forward to the day this show goes live, 26 years ago today, Richie. Which one?
Ooh, Parasite Eve.
No.
You're missing something massive, Chris. 29 years ago.
Oh, shit, yeah.
The actual PlayStation
came out. Skim past that, yeah. I was got Spyro the Dragon 26 years ago in 1998. But you're totally right. The original PlayStation. It doesn't say whereabouts because I know it came out in Japan first. But yeah, 29 years ago, 1995, the PlayStation 1. Oh, yeah, it can't be. It must have been Japan because they're celebrating it in December. Yeah, the 30th anniversary. So I'm guessing it was worldwide 30th. Yeah, it did. So in Japan, 29 years ago.
25 years ago, the Dreamcast.
Dreamcast, wow. Oh, wait there, that was 9999, wasn't it?
Yeah, 1999.
Yeah, it launched on like one of the coolest dates you could possibly get. September 9th month, 1999. Oh, what a chance. Which Bethesda game was supposed to launch on 11/11/11? Was it Fallout or Skyrim? I'm sure one of them came out on...
I want to say Skyrim for the... I'm not sure without looking up, but the timeline for that feels like Skyrim.
Yeah, something like that. It's always cool when things line up for dates like that. And 10 years ago, Destiny. On PlayStation 3 and 360. Which is like, when you hear that, you're like, oh shit, yeah. It's like GTA. But yeah, what a couple of days then for video games and consoles, seemingly. Just like what a day for this very podcast. Thank you very much to everyone who's listened and tuned in. Don't forget to like, subscribe, ring back the bell so you're kept in the loop with all the great content we do here. Like our weekly live streams, we'll have one lined up for this week. Keep tuned and locked in for Thursday or Friday. Again, we do have our 50th anniversary coming at the end of the month, so join us for the podcast live. Get in the chat, join us, a Q&A, Gears of War, some multiplayer game with you, the audience, our console ranking and trophy reviews, and much, much more. Maybe some giveaways as well. Just a couple short weeks away. Thank you very much for tuning in, everyone. My name's been Chris.
And I've been Richie.
We've been the Gamer Guild Podcast right here on GamerGuildTV. Thank you very much. Have a great week. And remember, folks, play whatever makes you the happiest. Bye.
Bye.